See, now you got me. Now you got me nervous because it's not right. Okay. What are you doing? You're looking weird now. You're like, what am I gonna do? Okay.
3S FX presents the Indoob podcast with your host, T. Sterling Watson.
Good morning, Indubians. I am T. Sterling Watson. This is the Indoob podcast. Thank you for stopping by and pressing play. And today is, I'm going to call it Spoiler Day. A very special guest with me today. The talented, the beautiful, the ververific. I'm just coming up with words. And she's actually here with me. Oh, yeah, by the way, this is the first time I'm doing the show elsewhere than Connecticut. Today I'm in Arkansas with how did I anyway, yes, I'm here with the one and only Kortney Hinton. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good.
Good. That's great. We're going to go through a whole bunch of things today that you and I have both seen before and just discuss them because it's a whole bunch of stuff that we've watched and just kind of geeked out about. And you've been on the show before. We talked about Sense8 and we talked about other things that you've done such as Verve and its ever-growing presence because it's got big things in its future. And frequent fans or regular fans have heard the commercials, which, you know, there's still more to come. There's more stuff, Verve-related stuff. People are going to get Verved. So how are things going? What's coming up?
Things are good. We got a lot of stuff going on. Got a lot of things on the horizon. So it's good.
I can't wait. And you've done a couple Periscope stuff I've seen, so it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yes.
And you've also completed or won NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. Mm-hmm. That takes place every November, and that was something we also talked about last time or a couple times ago you were here. Mm-hmm. And you...
A couple months ago,
yeah. And you won.
I did.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how was that process for you?
It was hard. It's a hard process, but worth it, you know.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm super excited, and I know what you started, you will be continuing to work on. So you actually have like a completed novel, and definitely look forward to it. And when that is completed and ready and published and so forth, you'll definitely have to come back again and tell us about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like a stop at a book tour kind of thing.
Sure.
So, yes.
You're first on the stop.
Awesome. I cannot wait. So we will jump right into all the stuff that we want to chat about. And I am going to take note and probably pop in like with a quick edit just to let you know what it is that we're talking about and how long we'll be talking about it in case you want to skip over it. And I'll also try to put that in the description as well. But the first thing, well, the last time you were here, we watched, or not, we didn't watch it, but we talked about Sense8, and it's got picked up for a second season, which actually I don't even know when that starts. Probably sometime in the summer.
Probably.
Yeah, because that's
I would
when.
think so.
Yeah, so that is one thing that will be coming up. Not that I have much more to add to it, because I meant to go back and watch it again. I never did, because there's a whole bunch of other Netflix shows, such as Jessica Jones, that has come up, which I know you haven't finished, so we can't talk all about it, but we can talk up to episode 10, I think? Episode 9.
See, look, you're already about to spoil things for me.
See, okay, so we won't go that far into that, but we can talk about David Tennant and
all day
his portrayal of Kilgrave so far.
Oh yeah,
because it is intense. It's brilliant. Emmy worthy, perhaps. I don't know, but I know you don't do the award shows as much, but it's how How is his portrayal? I mean, because we known him as the 10th Doctor. He's also played on Broadchurch, but the 10th Doctor most proficiently. But like seeing him as a villain of this caliber, how does that? What does that do for you as such a big Doctor Who fan?
Well, I love it. It's. I have to admit, I still see him a lot of times as the good guy, whether that's as the Doctor or as any of his other characters, because I don't know him in any other way other than the good, in some respect, the good guy. So
Right.
it's really nice to see him and see his range as an actor, because he's a really good actor, and he has such a range and a diverse amount of talent, to where he can spread it out and he can play basically whatever he wants to. And I love him as Kilgrave, because Kilgrave is such an interesting villain, and he's just one of the best villains I've seen.
Especially using like psychic powers to instead of do good, but to
which
do
is I'm
bad.
totally into.
I mean, I read about him way before the series even started, and I'm like, the description wasn't all that like much, but again, back to David Tennant, what he brought, and even the writers, got to give the writers credit for how they fleshed this character out to make him evil, yet even a little sympathetic at times.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes you feel sorry for him, and he's got a really good sense of humor. So sometimes you'll laugh at the things he says, or even does, even if it's grisly or a little villainous. It's still very interesting to be able to relate to him and to the things that he goes through. And like I said, his humor is it's very entertaining to watch.
It is.
Very.
And I even went as far as to compare him to another purple villain, the Joker. Because if you can make me laugh and make me terrified of you at the same time, it's pretty...
doing something.
Yeah, that is doing something. That's pretty evil, and kind of want to stay away, even though you make me laugh, but I don't want to be in the same room with you. So, the only other purple one that we have is Prince, and as far as I know, he's a good guy.
Or Barney.
Barney, okay, yeah.
But we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
You can never really know these days. So.
Yeah, that is true. Because I haven't heard from him recently, so he could be out on a murderous rampage, just tearing up a city. I don't know. He may have seen Godzilla and got really upset about it. We don't know these things.
True.
Yes.
Very true.
Very true. And the title character we didn't even talk about yet, Jessica Jones herself.
Yeah.
I know you got really excited just by I think the first episode, and just her character, and just it's different. It's refreshing for me, because she is one that, I mean, the whole show it has to do with superpowers, but you don't see them like all the time. It's not about that.
I was gonna say, even with Kilgrave, it's similar. I don't want to give away too much, but the way that his power is portrayed as well as hers is very, I don't want to say minimal, but it's not overly done. If they had incorporated CGI or anything in this show, which they might, but if they had incorporated that type of thing in the show, it would be at a very minimal, realistic, level. So.
And you
I
get
love
stuff
that.
away. This episode's called Spoilers.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
You know.
We'll leave a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Just
At
in
least
case.
something to be desired.
Because there's going to be a few people just like, I'm going to listen anyway, because I do that. A lot of the podcasts or even YouTube videos I'm not supposed to watch until after I watch it. Yeah, you've yelled at me about that before. Okay, we're going to move on to our next, I think it was might have been another Netflix show.
Before we move on, can I say one more thing about Jessica Jones?
Yes, of course.
So I love Jessica Jones also because, there's a lot of strong female characters. She is a strong female character, of course, but she's not the only one. The other women in the show are not just story pieces or side characters or whatever, but they're all fleshed out. They're all strong in their own respects, but they're not... It's not overly done, and I love that. It's very refreshing because we don't have enough of that.
Right.
Also, I just love Jessica Jones because she's not the girly girl type, and
Far from it.
She's the grumpy, mean type of character, and I love that. I just
she
love
almost
that.
would rather not deal with you, but unless you're getting paid or she's getting paid. Yeah,
exactly.
she's
But
there.
she does have a heart. And we see that throughout the show, that even though she really just would rather be doing something else, she sees something or a series of some things, and she can't just turn her back because she knows that she has a responsibility. She knows that, and I love it.
It is amazing. I appreciate it too. I do like seeing strong female characters because it feels almost underrepresented. Not lately, because they're coming out now. They're like there's more of them, but we need more of them.
True.
So this is good, and this is the second in the Marvel Netflix series. We've been introduced to another character, which I can let you kind of, because I mean I'm a guy, so I see Luke Cage. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But you know, the women just swoon, so you can.
Of course we do.
Yes.
Because I forget his name, but Luke Cage is just Luke Cage. He's.
Just the rippling and the sweating and muscles
swooned.
and just
Dreamy.
many times he's why are you
Sometimes it's necessary.
It is necessary. Oh, by the way, this is not a show for children.
Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, but they're not marketing as a show for children.
They're
it's
not.
very clear that it has mature themes and images, and if it was on TV, it would for sure be TVMA. So
Actually, even as on Netflix, they rated it.
Is it okay? Well, there we go.
There we go. It would
So
be a show that
listen to your ratings.
Yes, definitely. And don't say you weren't warned, because clearly it says that. And
I think it before every episode it even gives the warning, if I remember correctly. Maybe not.
Might be thinking of The Walking Dead.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Which is another show we watch. Well, you got me watching it, so Mike from The Lost Eye would be proud that I finally signed on.
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Season, what, 17?
Yeah.
Or 5.
Yeah, 5.
Whatever.
Yeah, he's been getting on me to watch it for years. For as long as we've been doing the dial, he was like, you should watch the show. I'm like, no. But here I am. I'm fully caught up. And we just, finished the winter or fall?
Just the mid-season finale, yeah.
Yes. Because I have to suffer like the rest of you and have to wait for the next,
Yeah. Welcome to the wait. It's a long wait, too.
It is a long wait.
It's not as long as the finale, where you have to wait from the end of the finale to the beginning of the next season. That's a long wait. It's about 7 months. And it's the worst. The worst.
I can understand that. And because this is a discussion my mother and I have, where like a show goes off like for like a finale or a season, and it's like, what am I going to watch now? And like, don't worry, there's another show coming up that's going to fill that void. You'll be fine. And then like a month or 2 months, they'll start showing the previews and get all excited again. It's like, oh, what was I doing before the show was off?
Exactly.
So
the cycle of life.
Yeah, the cycle of life. We'll be fine. Although, there are some hints already as to what's to come, because everyone was kind of getting a little antsy, wondering what happened to Glenn, because he just kind of disappeared as.
Well, I knew what happened to Glenn.
Yeah, yes, you did. You called it.
And I know what's going to happen to Glenn still. His time is coming.
Yes, it is.
His time is definitely coming.
Especially those who read the comics, and even those who might have spoiled it for themselves. Again, I would be figuratively raising my. Okay, I'm raising my hand. You can witness. I'm raising my hand. Yes, I was reading about a character that has actually been introduced in a teaser trailer, the character of Negan. So that part isn't really a spoiler anymore, because now it's out there in the world.
I haven't even seen that trailer.
Oh, it wasn't even, okay. It actually aired during Into the Badlands. Which,
see.
Yeah, we can't talk about yet.
Yeah.
I'm still recommending, at some point with your busy schedule.
I told you my TV viewing queue it's stacked on top of it's just
stacks
so many
on stacks,
things.
Yeah.
Stacks on stacks, not the right kind of stacks, but I will never be without a TV show to watch, which is I guess kind of nice, but I'm gonna be behind.
And at the same time,
I'm still trying to get caught up on Game of Thrones.
Oh yes.
I think I'm on season 4, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I know each time we bring it up, you still just can't quite get over that red wedding hump.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. It started to get really. It was personal when that happened, and so I'm still grieving and still in mourning.
I think there are a lot of people that do, but you also got to celebrate along with the rest of us.
I did. Lord have mercy, did I celebrate?
I can't even think of little punk's name anymore.
Joffrey,
yes.
Ooh,
Joffrey.
he had to die. He had to die.
I can hear a collective applause and whoops and yes and hollers. Yes.
He had to die. Thank you.
That was like probably the best death in TV history.
Oh my,
like the
best,
most relieving.
The best. Because even when other characters died, like The Walking Dead, a lot of people die.
Mm-hmm.
So other villains like the governor is a really good was a really good villain on The Walking Dead. And it was very satisfying when he died, but he was also a villain that everybody liked.
It was weird. He was charismatic. So
he was charismatic, and you didn't root for him per se, but you like watch. He was very entertaining, and he was very
kind of like to hate him a little bit, kind of thing.
I mean, I don't know if it's that type of relationship. It's a weird one. But Joffrey just didn't have any good redeeming qualities. He just wasn't a human. He wasn't a human. He was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And such a young one
a child.
Such a baby. And he's the worst person ever written. Great villain, but he's the worst person ever written.
I do need to start a list, though, of villains, which I know I have a huge appreciation for a really good villain. And Kilgrave and Joker are on there. And I think Joffrey,
he's a great villain.
Yeah.
You hate him, though. You just hate him.
You hate him. And I'll when I do that countdown, I'll do a list or not a list, but a description of why they are so hated or why they are such a great villain.
I need to contribute to that list.
You do, yes. We'll collaborate on the great villains in fiction. Because in nonfiction, probably Hitler would be at the top, of course.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That was stemming off from The Walking Dead. I thought there was another related thing. Oh, yeah, because, Glenn is back, but he might be gone. And I was trying to think. I thought there was another villain that they had that I didn't really care for. But that's a show that, like I said, due to Mike always kind of wanting me to watch, I kind of learned things before I even got to them. So I was kind of pre-spoiled, but at the same time, I didn't really know what he was talking about until it happened. Like,
or know when it was going to happen, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was still shocked when things happened, like when Carol had to kill the girl that
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was it hit me.
That was a sad one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, and I think I told you about this before. I think it was in either season 5 or season 4, where they actually said the title of the show, and they were all locked in the barn together. Oh yeah. And it was raining, and they were holding that was another emotional moment for me. Like, they said the name of the show. It's The Walking Dead. And it felt like, they were really bonding like family. So, and that's where it comes in, where it is a show where anybody can die at any time, and it hits you when some people are unexpected and they go. So it's a little rough, but it's a good show. And I do apologize to all the people. I was like, I don't want any parts of that, and you can keep your zombie stuff to yourself. But now
can you go on record and say that The Walking Dead has very little to do with zombies? Can you say that?
I can. And you know what the weird thing was? Like, I kind of knew that even before I even started watching. I was like, you know what? I think this is probably like Lost, because it's about characters. It's about these people just trying to survive, and the zombies are just happen to be
it's just a backdrop.
A backdrop, yeah, and they're part of sometimes how people are dispatched, because sometimes it's just other people just killing other people,
or rising to take power, or wanting to control a certain territory, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, yes, I will go on record. The Walking Dead, while featuring zombies, is not centered on zombies. It just takes place in a zombie apocalyptic world. And occasionally some grisly, gruesome ghouls.
Or often.
Okay, often. Yes, that happens in every episode, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes. What else is in? Oh, yeah, that's louder than I thought. Doctor Who is playing in the background, so that is happening. The only other TV show I have listed, I didn't mean to go, and I'm just kind of skipping around on my little list here, but sticking with TV, another great television show that came out this year that we are both obsessed with, Mr. Robot.
Oh my gosh. That show.
Yeah, I almost lost her for a second, but yes, it's.
My goodness.
I don't know where exactly. Okay, we'll start with Elliot.
Okay.
As a character, and again, this is a spoiler show, so we can just go right into it all the way to the very end. We can talk about all the complications that make Elliot who he is, what he is. But I mean, we'll just start from the beginning because that's how we all were introduced in episode 1. How he just pretty much took down that guy who was he doing child pornography or watching it? I don't know exactly.
I think he wasn't doing it. He was like a dealer in it or something. I know he watched it, but I think he also provided it, something like that. I don't think he was directly involved.
Either way, he needed to go.
Either way, he needed to go down. Yeah.
And it was brilliant because he set him up. He even explained his character, and there's so many elements about this show that I absolutely love, or we both really like. The writing is
superb, so good.
It is so strong, so dense. It requires multiple viewings. So that just requires, instead of 10 hours to watch the series, you need 20. And probably some hours in between just to digest,
process.
Yes.
Grieve if you need to.
Yes, because I mean, wow, the Elliot's girlfriend, whose name is all suddenly escaping because there's so many shows, all these characters' names.
Yeah, Sasha,
Shayla. Yes. Again, spoilers. So when Shayla is found in the trunk, all this time he's been riding around.
Oh my gosh.
Looking for her, and she's been dead in the trunk the whole time.
And just that scene. Rami Malek?
Yes.
Malek.
Who, by the way, for your consideration, Emmy people, please.
His performance of finding her was so powerful because the camera just stays on him the whole time, and at first he doesn't even respond. So we're like, okay, did he see something? Did he not? What's going on? And he's someone who doesn't emote very well or very, very often, and he's very much in his head. So you most times do not know what he's thinking or what he's about to do, but just that scene, the camera just stayed on his face while he discovered everything. He figured it out, and it was just the way the scene itself was very beautifully shot, composed beautifully. The music
for such a tragic scene, but it was
it was, and then when he finally did break and he just showed all that emotion and let it out. It was amazing. It was a great performance.
Wow, it was.
Oh, man, so good.
It was, and I was like floored. I think I might have been involved in the live tweet and could not tweet. It's a very difficult show to do that anyway, because there's so much going on, and you will miss. You have to pay attention to everything.
You have to.
There's no fluff pieces in this show
at all.
Any little thing that might seem irrelevant or
it's
unimportant, it's connected to something.
Did you ever figure out the dog? Remember I told you about that and you didn't remember it?
I didn't remember it until I did go back, because I did start watching it again, but I think I only made it to like 3rd episode. But
the dog doesn't he takes. Okay, well you tell me then, because I don't know that we're talking about the same thing here.
Maybe we might not be. I'm not sure. I remember him getting the dog from the guy who was, I guess,
his therapist.
Cheating with the therapist.
Yeah.
And then I forgot what the point of that. There was something. Oh, because he ate something.
Well, later in the season, like later half of it, probably we see the dog again, because the dog, I guess, did eat Elliot was purging some files, like discs and stuff, and in his manic purging of like a piece of something important fell on the floor, and the dog ate it, and then I guess Elliot found out, so he took the dog to the vet who was microchipped, and Elliot didn't know that.
Okay.
To figure out how to get the chip out, or does the dog just have to pass it or what? And I thought that was I was like, the dog is throughout the whole season, because she lives with Elliot, but why is this happening? And then I realized it's because they needed to tell us that the dog was microchipped, and we didn't find out till later that because the dog was microchipped and Elliot took the dog to the vet, the guy from the beginning, the cheating guy who was with the therapist, ended up being able to track Elliot down.
Okay.
Because remember, Elliot also said, before he even took the dog, he's like, I'm about to tell I forget the therapist's name. But I'm gonna tell her all that you're doing unless
Okay.
you fess up and tell her and break up with her and leave her because she needs to know and she needs to be protected from this. Also, give me your dog. So we don't find out till later. The guy tracked him down.
Because the dog was microchipped.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part. Okay, that's the part I haven't gotten to yet to realize all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so
Good stuff.
there is layers,
and I love how the thread just an unassuming thread storyline starts at the very beginning. You don't see it again until the very end, and it's just like at the end you see, wow, all of this was connected all along.
Everything is
and
like
that's
everything
just a
is
small
connected.
piece of the puzzle,
And that's I mean, there's other characters in the show that might not interact with each other directly, but they all somewhat are connected. And we'll just jump to, I guess, maybe the next character on my mind, which is Tyrell. I'll stress the Ty part because it's not Tyrell, unlike myself. But I'm even wondering putting him on. Yeah, I think I want to put him on the villain list. I think at times because he's very Macbethian.
Well, yeah, I mean,
or both of them are.
Who?
Tyrell and his wife.
I would call his wife more so the villain because she's the puppet master. He's just the peon to go carry it out and to be the face of everything, in my opinion. I don't know. I guess he's villainesque. I don't know if he. Well, and plus he works for Evil Corp, and Evil Corp is the big bad. So,
yeah.
Okay.
One of the theories that was going around was if Elliot and Tyrell were the same person, which since I started watching it again, I'm finding doubt in that theory because
I think it's a plausible theory. I don't really subscribe to it though. I don't know if Mr. Robot and Elliot are the same person.
Yeah, and we already know he's not in his right mind a lot of the time.
He's not in his right mind. He's very unreliable as a narrator. So, I don't know. At this point, anything could be possible. That's why I say it is a very plausible theory, but I haven't found anything to really make that theory solid enough for me to say, okay, yes, I believe that. I think that's true. I haven't come across that theory yet. But the idea,
Yeah, it only started happening like in the last few episodes. People started coming up with that theory. So
after we found out Mr. Robot and Elliot were the same person, it makes sense because it's like, okay, who else is not real in Elliot's world?
And oh wow, now I'm forgetting his sister's name. Not even knowing that.
Darlene.
Yes. Darlene. Finding out Darlene was his sister. That was
Crazy.
A huge shock.
And then going back to the earlier episodes, just seeing their relationship, it makes sense. There was even something that happened, I think maybe in the first or the second episode. They're all so dense, they all kind of run together.
Yes.
But where she was just kind of in his shower and like she had let herself into his apartment, had showered, very, very, making herself very much at home. And then she said something about, where were you last night? We waited on you and you didn't show up. And so I remember my first time watching it, I was like, okay, did I miss something?
Right.
Maybe I missed something. Maybe, surely that's not an editing error. Surely it's just me. Okay, so I just kept watching. We'll come to find out that I didn't miss anything that was left in there and that was put in there to show that Elliot's mind often cuts the important things out, important people, important events, important memories that he should really know about.
And I clearly he didn't remember Darlene, and Mr. Robot, his face, that's his father, and he didn't even know who he was, and he kept showing up. So
because he was conjuring him.
Right.
That's the crazier. I mean, it's one thing to have. It's not called multiple personality disorder. It's something else. There's something more
similar to it.
Politically correct, maybe. I don't know. But basically, if you have you project or you display multiple personalities, that's one thing. But to have one of them be a projection of your dead father, that's pretty. It's pretty psychotic.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
It's even worse if you have that projection
and then don't recognize that projection.
Right.
That's
roughing you up in a coffee house.
Oh my
that
goodness.
Scene, oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
because I always wondered, I was like, okay, what does it look like then if he's not really talking to anybody? And I was like, oh, he's talking to himself, and he threw himself out of a window.
Threw himself out of a window.
Off a bridge.
Off
not the bridge, but the pier.
The railing, the pier. And seeing the video of that too. And it's like, wow, that's so
a little
creepy.
Yeah.
So creepy.
Yeah. Talk about the technical aspects of Mr. Robot. The cinematography of it was just, again, this goes back to the beauty of how this show is shot. It's very cinematic. It's very the word artistic comes to mind, but the way things are framed, it's not conventional to regular television. Even for some movies, unless you're kind of into an arty kind of movie, but really playing with that rule of thirds a lot, like
in the negative space.
Yes, the negative space, which takes up most of the space instead of
Well, and I was reading up on that, and I read that the creator Sam Esmail specifically chose shots like that because it's pretty off-putting when you have a character like in the lower third of the frame, or whatever, however he chooses to shoot it and to have so much negative space. He says it's very discomforting and it's very off, and that something isn't quite right, and he said that he deliberately shot it that way because we are getting introduced into Elliot's world, which is very disconcerting. It's off-putting.
And that's, I guess, how he sees the world.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's a great choice. I love that happened because it just makes it more visually interesting to watch. And sometimes maybe in those weird scenes, there's something that we should be looking at instead.
Probably.
So
I'm sure there's lots of Easter eggs.
There are, which you have found a few already.
Have I?
Yeah, because you sent me a picture.
Oh,
the dog.
Oh,
of
yeah.
F Society. And
yeah.
I didn't realize that was already on the building.
Yeah.
And
somebody else pointed out. I can't take full credit for that one,
but for the sake of this show and for right now, yes, you pointed out to me, and I didn't realize it was right there all along. On the building.
Well, and the person that I found it a hawk-eyed crazy fan. I don't know, on Reddit.
Call him Intrepid. Yes.
Sure.
Intrepid fan.
Sure. They pointed it out, and then they say it probably doesn't actually say, the letter F and then society. It's probably Fun Society. But the way Elliot sees and hears things, he hears, instead of E-Corp, he hears Evil Corp. Right. He even sees it in writing. It's so strong.
Like in the rest of the show, that's what it's...
Exactly.
And all the characters
refer to it. And I didn't realize at the time, I was like, oh, somebody had to point that out to me, that for a while I thought it was Evil Corp, and I'm like, am I hearing? But weird, it's that hatred for the man or the corporate, and I don't even think it's just E Corp. I think it's the corporate, the whole corporate structure,
corporate world.
But just because he feels so strongly against that whole structure, it seeps into his vision, his hearing about this. It just automatically changes from E to evil. And that's... So anyway, I saw that to say, I think that the building actually says Fun Society, and maybe the UN is, faded out or something. So
it is a decrepit building, so
it's a decrepit building,
fell off.
Abandoned, I think, amusement park. So they either fell off, or he just automatically switches it from Fun Society to F Society. Since we now know he's the founder, it makes a lot of sense.
It does, and I mean, I don't even need to know the origins of how he started that society. It's really...
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter.
It'd be an interesting story, but...
season 2, whenever that...
Fan fiction.
Ooh,
for the wait. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll help you to pass time until it comes back.
Yeah. Great show.
It's a great show. The last point I did want to make is the music choice on that show, because some of them come out of left field, but they fit so perfectly.
Oh my goodness!
Because just when you think there's I remember tweeting about it. I was like, oh, we got some sexy times going on, and all of a sudden Tyrell kills that person's wife.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that song's now ruined forever because that happened. And there's a lot of classical bits, which I know you appreciated, and like, perfect. It was just perfect, and that's another person who needs awards and recognition. Whoever is in charge of picking the music.
Yeah, I actually don't know.
I didn't look into it either. The only person I ever did look into that does it is the guy who does the music or did the music for Breaking Bad, because that also was a show that had a lot of great music cues. So, and it stands out to me especially because how much I love music and how it's used in film and TV. It really stands out when it's used really well and really enhances a scene and doesn't take it over. But the way my mind works, I'm like, that song made the scene, but it's
all
great.
Works together.
Yeah, definitely. And because I think the last song that I can recall was Alabama Shakes, Sound and Color, which right now is blowing up with the iPad commercial, which I still love. But I looked it up, and that's the first thing that comes up is Mr. Robot. It's like, Mr. Robot brought me here. So I'm like, because it was used well.
And that was a perfect. It's so interesting to see the two, like the commercial, the iPad commercial, and the show. And the scenes,
how the song is
used, but it works so well for both of them because for the iPad is obviously more upbeat and it's very visually appealing. The commercial is, but it directly relates to sound and color, so it really works. But with Mr. Robot, it's just a more like something dark really happened.
I don't remember
I
don't remember what happened in the scene where that song came up, but I feel like that was when he was in New York. Well, the whole show takes place in New York, but when he's in Times Square.
He's in Tyrell's... No, I thought it was when he was in Tyrell's car, because we still don't know where Tyrell is.
I think it might have been then.
That's something. But anyway, it was ending the show, ended very darkly, because a lot of people died and a lot of reveals, and
It's another one of those shows, yeah.
And then we have this like really awesome song to close it out. It's just like, it just does something to your brain.
It does.
Something good, but it does something, that's for sure.
It's just great storytelling once again, and how it all works. So I'm going to use this because we talked about sound and color and Mr. Robot moving to that iPad commercial with space, and a movie that you finally got to watch dealing with space and sound and color, or lack of sound, but Interstellar.
Yes.
So you finally got to see Interstellar.
Finally got to see Interstellar. I don't know what took me so long, but finally I've seen it.
Finally seen it. And can you take yourself back to your initial reactions after it was over? And then we'll go through, like, because you had a whole bunch of reactions throughout the movie too.
Yeah. Well, when it was over, it was just like, I don't know. I guess it was a bit of not a letdown as far as the movie, but just like, oh, it's over. I finally saw this movie, and now what? I don't have an Interstellar to look forward to. But the movie itself, it got kind of trippy towards the end, kind of weird. And, the whole movie is, I told you while watching it, it was I loved how science-y and based in actual scientific fact it was, because even in modern sci-fi films, it may be a little bit of science or not, but it's not always very accurate. A lot of times science is molded to fit the world that sci-fi story is set in, which is fine. It's why science fiction works. But I loved how science-y and pretty accurate from what I understand. It's pretty accurate. So for it to go from really, really, really sciencey, almost confusingly scientific, to go to something really left field and
something that can't really be explained.
Wasn't really, well, I guess it was a little bit, but I don't know. It was a little jarring. I mean, I guess Christopher Nolan and crew had to bring it home, and they had to start explaining stuff. So I guess my mom was a little bit like mushed towards the end. It was very entertaining, but it was mushy towards the end.
I think I was like that too, or I wasn't sure if I liked what happened. Like, I think I get it, but there's so much to take apart and try to figure out. Like, okay, I can see. Okay, Matthew McConaughey was the ghost the whole time.
Yeah,
I get that.
And I like the whole full circle thing. You know, I do appreciate that type of storytelling.
I think it was the science of the Tesseract itself that, because like you were saying, so it's so rooted in science that now that there's this unknown about it, and I think I can defend it by saying that because we don't know really what's in a black hole.
True, we can go anywhere with it.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want.
Well, that's what
that's the basis of science fiction.
It's the basis of science fiction is the possibility and the whole we don't know, so we're gonna make it up.
We're gonna make it up.
Which I love it. I love science fiction.
And that's what I geeked out about too. I mean, there's many scenes to geek out about, but going into the black hole, and like finally we're doing a movie that is, we can see what it's like.
Yeah.
Even though we would have no idea. And I told you about spaghettification, which you didn't even know that was a real thing, but it's something I learned from our hero Neil deGrasse Tyson. And for those listeners who don't know what spaghettification is, that's if you actually enter a black hole, you are being pulled apart like spaghetti. And but it happens so quickly that you won't even feel it.
They're gonna come in.
I think so. Okay, there you go now. Maybe, I don't know. Well, anyway, we're going to use this moment right now to take a quick break.
Hello, Indubians. I'm Laura, host of Loudavision, the podcast for visionaries, artists, and creatives. On my podcast, I'm interviewing fellow artists trying to figure out how we can bring our creative vision to life without compromising our values, crushing our soul, and dying poor. Yep, that explains it. You can listen to the Loudavision podcast on lauramioli.com and connect with me on Twitter at Loudavision.
Hey y'all, I'm Kortney Hinton of VerveHouseCollective.com. Verve House Collective is all about creatives, entrepreneurs, and those who want to live an awesome life full of intention. Again, that site is VerveHouseCollective.com, and we'd love to see ya.
The Indoob Podcast.
And we're back. We left off talking about Interstellar and spaghettification, right? And how I guess that's what would happen if you fell into a black hole or went into whatever. If you were, you would be spaghettified. You'd be torn apart.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't love is everything was really scientifically based, and like I said before, pretty accurate, as accurate as you can be in a science fiction movie. But the fact that he didn't get torn apart or vaporized or spaghettified,
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah,
just it's like okay.
Yeah, because we don't really know. I mean, even when they went into the wormhole, which I guess that has a little bit more. Again, there theories on what would happen if you went into a wormhole, but it was very cool to see.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was very interesting.
A cool rendition.
Brought us memories of Contact, which is another great movie. Another long movie, but a great movie.
Yeah.
Also, I think deeply rooted in science, but has
that one.
Well, okay, maybe not. Well, I think it was written by Carl Sagan, who is a big name physicist. And one of again Neil deGrasse Tyson's mentors. He's a big fan of, so it's just a movie I really enjoy. Yeah, especially by the end of it. So, but that's Contact. We're Interstellar, and just the genius of Christopher Nolan and all the things that he has done.
That guy's a genius.
He's
a genius. Now I didn't love. I guess I feel a little bit torn on the ending because his whole purpose of leaving, because we find out that he left the mission because he realized that the whole mission, the objective of the mission was a lie. He was lied to,
right? And
so he was told that he was going to find other worlds to live on, which say that was part of the mission, but not to save. They were going to abandon Earth as it was, not try to fix it. So there's that. But then once he found that out, he immediately wanted to go back home to his kids, and and he did that. But when he goes home, like, did we ever find out what happened to his son? Maybe he died.
He might have died
because he was older.
He is older
than the daughter. But he found the daughter, and she's done amazing things, and she's been able to move. She was able to go ahead and serve the original objective of the mission to move everybody from Earth. So she does really great things. It's awesome. But she's old now, which is fine. But then, she's on her deathbed, and she doesn't want him to see her dying, because she's like, no parent should ever watch their own child die. I completely understand that. And then, because he's still a young man and he's done so much, and now his reason for coming back home are basically dead or dying, his daughter Murphy encourages him to go back and find the other doctor, Anne Hathaway's character, that he left out there to save her, but he did leave her. So it makes sense, because he really is coming back to a whole new world. I just heard Aladdin in my head. But he's coming back to a whole new world that's not Earth. It's doesn't even look like Earth,
And he's not even happy with it either.
He's not happy with it. He's like, I'm glad humanity is saved and all, but this isn't the home that I left. This isn't the home that it doesn't even look like home. I get it. I just don't love it.
So now it's starting to turn to a question that would be on another YouTube channel, but is there a way that you would have ended it differently?
See, I knew you were going to say that. I don't know if there is any other way for it to end, because they had already established that there was a planet going down onto that planet, the first planet that they found, which was orbiting a black hole, was going to speed up time or is going to slow down time for them.
Right.
But, time would pass normally as we know it for everybody else. And they were aware of that. But of course they ran into problems. And so the hour that they were going to spend on Earth, roughly, was already going to take 7 years, from everybody else. And so, of course, when the problems ensued, they ended up spending like 3 hours, which was equivalent to about 23 years everywhere else.
Right.
So it makes sense, since all this time had passed for them. They had already spent 2 years just trying to get to Saturn or get to the wormhole. Anyways, I say all that to say, a lot of time had passed, and I mean, he had literally watched his kids grow up by video screen, like a one-way Skype session. He couldn't even respond to it. So he really didn't have anything to go home to. He had spent the best years of his and his family's life out there traveling the stars and searching for new worlds and going through these crazy black holes and wormholes and
Tesseracts.
So Tesseract. I mean, it makes sense that he went back out into the universe to find the doctor and to do whatever they were going to do. I don't even know.
Well, she was out there to start the new Earth and found one that was able to facilitate life.
Right.
And she was going to be by herself and go off to the long sleep. So by going out there, she wouldn't have to be alone. So
right. So I get it, and they are, roughly around the same age, so it would work if they wanted to, create life.
They established somewhat of a relationship. They didn't seem like they
didn't seem to like each other or have that type of romantic relationship,
but maybe they were there to keep each other company.
Sure.
Perhaps.
So I don't know. It seemed like the most logical ending after everyone had been through, and humanity was still saved. So there's that.
It just needed an ending. So I guess that's what they wanted to tie everything
it needed
up.
to wrap up. It was a bit long.
Yeah, it was, and
very good, but it was Lord of the Rings style movie watching.
Yeah, a bit. I wasn't going to bring it up, but that kind of brought up a recent film that came out that we both kind of agree that we didn't like, which is the Mockingjay Part 2. Because for me, it was the length, even though it wasn't. This movie's actually shorter than Interstellar, but I didn't like the ending. There was many things you didn't like about it, but
many things.
It just ended too many times, and even though that's in the book too, but that doesn't matter. I just didn't.
I feel like the execution in that movie just See, I read the books first, so I didn't love the way the last book ended anyway, which is only a trilogy, and of course, Hollywood has made it into 4 movies. But
As
whatever,
they
I'm
are.
not gonna go there.
Yeah, we'll move on.
So I didn't love the way the trilogy ended. The third book, I didn't love how. I just remember reading and I was like, what is this? I hate that. What? Come on, Suzanne Collins. But because of that, and because the book is generally it's always better than the movie because it's the source material. I stand to, except for 50 Shades. But hey, moving on. Because I didn't like how the book ended, it kind of makes sense that I wouldn't care for how the movie ended because they were pretty true to, it stuck pretty well to how the book.
Get points for that.
Yeah, they get points for that, but
not many, but a few.
I didn't love it. It's pretty depressing anyway, but
it was.
I'm okay with depressing though.
And that's something that's not normal for like Hollywood,
YA or
American standards.
Yeah.
And I actually watched a documentary last night. It wasn't talking about that, but it was talking about how these, I think, Israeli filmmakers came over to America to make films, and how it just wasn't quite working out because some of the films they were making had downer endings.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think they still made some money, but they just had to adapt to American filmmaking. Which
is always, or generally, happy-go-lucky at the end.
Happy-go-lucky, everyone is happy. They're happy ever after, kind of thing.
And not all stories end like that.
That is true. Not all of them do. And even some of the bigger Hollywood movies don't always end that way. So Mockingjay was just one of them, but it was just, for me, too many endings.
It kind of ended on a happy note for Katniss and Peter.
That's right, it did. It took a while to get there.
It took a while to get there, but that's to me that was the story. I don't think that because there's still a lot of stuff that they left out. So Did
I tell you that the original cut was about Interstellar length, almost like 3 hours?
I can see that. It's a lot that happened and a lot that was cut out in the book. So I can see it being a longer ending or a longer movie.
Glad I was spared because I didn't need all of that. However, another movie we did see and thoroughly enjoyed was Creed. Which is the Rocky spinoff. I've only seen, I think, 1.5 Rocky movies.
Yeah, Creed was better than I thought it was going to be.
I completely agree.
And I didn't think it was going to be bad per se. And I love Sylvester Stallone, especially as Rocky. I love Michael B. Jordan. I love Tessa Thompson.
I've only seen her in 2 movies, but still. So
I just like her. But I just wasn't all that interested. I was okay with not seeing it. I'm not into boxing.
Neither am I. I mean, if it's on and there's other people around, I'll watch it, and I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, I'll tune that out. I just So I just wasn't really expecting to like it like I did. So
I was thoroughly surprised. I mean, I heard a lot of talk like on Twitter. It's like, oh, this movie's awesome. There's even like Oscar buzz about it. So we'll see. And that's something that you and I have talked about before about who should get at least the acting Oscar this year, Leonardo DiCaprio. And I don't know. I'd definitely say it would have some potential maybe for the director, who, it would be nice to have another black director nominated. So that would be nice. I don't know if he would be nominated though. Michael B. Jordan. I'm not sure.
The director?
For actor.
Who would then? He's the title character.
No, I'm just saying I'm not sure if he would be nominated, like if he'd be in the running for it. Because I mean it's still somewhat early. Then again, nominations will probably come out next month. So I don't know. I'm just speculating. I wouldn't mind if he was nominated, but I still want Leo to win.
I love Michael B. Jordan, and he did a fantastic job in this movie. But I'm
not sure if it was
Oscar I just worthy. Think that there are other actors, maybe more deserving. Maybe because I'm with you. I think Leo is way past his time for getting more recognition and more awards than he's gotten. So maybe I'm just being biased.
It might be because you're right. He's a pretty new actor in comparison to some other ones.
Yeah.
So
who have done consistently excellent work. Michael B. Jordan is great, but other actors have been around longer and have done more consistent.
Right.
Kind of like Michael B. Jordan's character, Adonis Creed.
This is true, yes. He came out of, I don't want to say obscurity, but...
Basically, he did, though.
Yeah, he's...
kind of out of nowhere. He
very
was
new.
New kid on the block. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't as seasoned and as, experienced as the other boxers that he was dealing with. Even the younger ones had been way more exposed to boxing and boxing professionally.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is the spoiler episode. I'm just reminding people that. So we're going to talk about how he did not win at the end of this big bout, this big match. On HBO, of all things. You okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay, good.
Just had a little frog.
But yeah, he didn't win. So, in that, maybe that allegory of if he should be nominated, it'd be great if he didn't, he would win the night, but he wouldn't win the award. Kind of
I'll be all right with that.
Yeah. But, I mean, overall, the film was a huge surprise to me. I hope it does have more to follow and follow kind of in Rocky's footsteps. Mm-hmm. And it was way more entertaining than I thought it would be. I loved how they had so many tracking shots or just the one take shots, and I was happy to learn that they were not edited together. They were actually shot, and so they had to rehearse those scenes over and over again, and actually film them over and over again. Mm-hmm. So it was. I just geek out with stuff like that. So it made it feel more real. Like, okay, they are really fighting.
Mm-hmm. And it looked real.
It looked real. It looked
felt
painful.
Those punches.
Yeah. And although at the end of it, I felt like I wanted to kind of punch something. Not in anger, but just like, you're just feeling all this triumph and excitement. Like, yes, he did it. And I can do it too.
That's how I feel about every Fast and the Furious movie.
Me too.
I always just want to... I think that I'm one of the racers and I'm a professional driver.
And just get in your car and just want to just hit the NOS button.
Go, yeah. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I wisen up and I do not do crazy stunts or jump through buildings or anything.
Because I've now been in the streets in Little Rock, and some of these have potholes in them. You might not want to do that.
Most of them have potholes.
Right.
So
you might not want to do that around here.
Yeah.
But I do feel that same way too. So once I leave a theater and I'm with Fast and the Furious movies, and now with Rocky, I guess really depending on whatever the movie is, like Guardians of the Galaxy, I wanted to jump in a spaceship and just go adventuring and looking for random orbs and finding raccoon people and just, having an adventure. And that's reasons why I love film so much, because it's escapism. It's just great storytelling. Well, when the movie's good. And it's just awesome. I just love it. I just love going to these other worlds that, other people have created for us to just dive into and enjoy. So it is great. I'm going to see if there's I don't know if I had another movie listed on here that we can spoil. Although it's older, but we often discuss The Matrix. And I think AI in general, how it's taking over a little bit.
Yeah. A
little by little. I know I'm guilty of kind of contributing to some of those things that do kind of monitor people.
Yes, you do. Willingly. That's the scary part about it.
Because I did have a thing on my phone before that would track where I was going and then give me surveys based on those places I've been. I took that off because it was actually killing my battery a little bit. But now I wear, which I talked about last episode, I do have two versions of a Fitbit. One is the actual Fitbit, and one is called Pivotal Living. And it doesn't track me, like my whereabouts, but it does keep, record on like how many steps I take and how the distance I've gone. It's good. It's good for your health. It keeps you updated.
Is it? Is it good for your health?
It is. It tracks how I sleep. I know it sounds creepy.
It's very creepy, and it's just the beginning. If you let them see where you are at all times and count your every single step, that's just the beginning. Next, they're going to want to know your blood type for whatever reason. They're going to want to know what your thoughts are. And then there's going to be programs that want to tap into your brain and keep you literally plugged in at all times, which we already are.
Yeah, we pretty much are.
But we don't have devices in our skin just yet. It's coming, though.
It is coming. It is coming. And I had told you yesterday about the technological singularity, and that is basically when AI comes to a point where it can it's smart enough to start to redesign itself and make itself better. And
happened in iRobot.
It happened in iRobot.
Happened in
Terminator. Matrix.
The Matrix.
There was another movie that was listed I have not seen, but I need to check out. I think it's called Colossus. It came out in the 70s.
Yes.
You've seen it? Or?
I haven't seen it. I've heard about it. But Geek Soul Brother on Twitter has talked about it and has explained how that works. And he says...
I hear that's the best example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to see it.
So do I. I need to... Probably Amazon Prime might have it. I'll look into it. I'm a big fan of Amazon Prime, by the way. Anyway, moving on. Or back to...
Are we an affiliate sponsor? Indoob?
Hopefully we should. I'm
not yet, though.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna look into that because Amazon Prime, yeah.
If you talk about them a lot, they need to be, on your team.
That reminds me, I got to get back to Nardelli's, which I know you don't know about, but you will. Great sandwiches. The Lost Isle was pretty close to being an affiliate with them. So great. Cheesecake burritos.
Oh.
See, already. AI, right? AI taking over. It's predicted 2045 that might happen.
That's close.
Yeah, so 30 years.
Yeah.
With that is something else called Moore's Law, which is already it has its criticisms because every 2 years they say things are going to get even smaller, like between the diodes or the things on the little circuits or whatever that goes on a motherboard. They're all getting smaller, and each 2 years it gets even smaller than that.
Okay. Why is that a problem?
It's not necessarily a problem, but it's getting close to nanobytes, which are something that I'm glad I kept the page open. This guy's name, Ray Kurzweil. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but it's somebody who you definitely want to look up. His name is spelled R-A-Y, well, Ray. His last name is Kurzweil. And it was actually you who indirectly introduced me to him.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't even know who this guy is.
Yeah, he's mentioned in a video in Film Theories. And for the can Terminator actually happen or the AI happen? So watching that video is kind of what brought on kind of what we're discussing now. And he has written many books, and he's one that makes many predictions about AI and it eventually taking over at some point. And there's also that are trying to keep AI from actually getting that strong. Elon Musk is on that list.
Really?
Yes. So I remember telling you about him before.
Yeah.
And I believe Ray is also on that list as well. But there's a whole bunch of other people that are trying to keep that from happening. But meanwhile, we have... I'm just going to use Japan for an example, but the people out there just making robots like, oh, we got one that's dancing now. And like, oh, that's how it starts. I'm just dancing now.
That's how it starts, huh? Like the machines wanting information about your every step and when you sleep and how long you sleep and that stuff.
Just kind of watching you while you sleep.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Or reading your emails. Looking at you, Google.
Yeah, that's more of Google, but
still,
but
it's
here
a machine.
We are as
a machine.
As a consumer. I'm saying society, not just me, but we're a consumer. Just like, oh, I like that thing, I want it.
Yep.
And okay, yeah, that is me as well.
Yes, it is.
And Apple does it too, because you are a Mac.
Yeah, but I don't. I could do without it though.
Well, not without your phone.
I could.
You could?
I could.
Oh, okay.
I could. I'm actually working on something for Verve House Collective.
Okay.
If you don't mind the shameless plug.
Hey, I encourage it. I am a big fan of Verve House Collective.
Well, I'm working on something for Verve called the Digital Detox, which is...
Tell me more.
Basically, it's still very much in beta stage. It'll either be available in some platform or some type of way in January or February 2016.
So it's either like an ebook or a series of posts, or
it's probably gonna be, well, I can't give too much info, but it'll be something like that. And it's basically gonna focus on unplugging. Now, not for good,
but
not
sometimes
for good.
You need
you just need to be unplugged, and you need to experience
life outside
of your computer or your phone
Mr. Robot,
screen.
which I learned for the first time. AFK, away from keyboard, which I had never known that acronym before.
Really?
But
even I knew that.
Well, there are levels to our nerdom. Some
Yes,
of them
it's
I'm
okay.
a
No
little
shame.
stronger, and yeah,
No judgment.
But you know,
But yeah, it's we are, you said it, we are a nation and a society, not even just a nation, but we are a society of consumerism and being plugged in at most times of the day. So yeah, it's important to just not be plugged in. Sometimes,
yes.
Because technology is a good thing.
It is. There are definitely benefits for it, which I mean we can talk about all day. But you know, at the same time, there are things with technology where it's not the same. You need to experience real life. You need to experience people in person. Which is why I'm here, to see you in person. Yet we're still doing something that has to, do with technology.
Yeah.
But it's to encourage people to do the same.
Yeah.
It's nothing like, face-to-face interaction and being outside in nature and enjoying the sun on your face and talking to all the pale people in the house. I'm just saying because they're still out there or in there in the basements or wherever they are. Just, get outside. Go, see if you remember how to ride a bike. Go hiking, go leaf peeping, which is also a term I learned a couple years ago. I never knew that was a thing. That people, actually went out to New England to look at leaves change color.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a thing. But hey, they're outside, enjoying life. You don't have to take a picture of everything.
Or post it.
It's
cool to take pictures, so you don't have to post it.
Right. Okay, that's the part. You don't have to post the pictures of everything you take, but
yeah.
But yeah, you can take the pictures for memory's sake.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that was a good day. That was a great leaf I took a picture of or drew. Yes, that's a thing. But yeah, get outside, get out there, and get verved.
That's right.
See, we're back in again. Tell you, I'm a fan. Let me make sure there's nothing else. We only mentioned the Matrix because that was an entry point into
and we
AI.
just went completely.
Yeah, but I mean. It was just an entry point for it because it's a favorite film. I think film series because I think we are in the minority of liking all three films, and I definitely have no shame about it because they're great. They all. I mean,
no movie is without sin, as Cinema Sins will tell you, which is on YouTube. But no movie is perfect, and there's always gonna be who will find something about everything. I know people who don't like Mr. Robot. Hey, but I love the Matrix series. I love the whole idea of it. The whole idea of us living in a simulation or never leaving the simulation. And it's funny. I actually heard of a theory, a true theory that there's a possibility that what the world that we know it actually could be a simulation. And how, or really not so much the possibility, but the likelihood of this actually being a simulation as seen in the Matrix or similar, how, what that percentage is. It's quite disturbing.
It is.
It's fun to theorize about those things, though.
It's fun to theorize and hope that is not true. And the thing is, I've heard about that too. And I told you I had I have a 10-disc box set of the Matrix. So it's not like just the Matrix trilogy, but it's got the Animatrix and it's got 6 other discs of not just behind the scenes, but like other philosophers and theorists that have credibility behind them and kind of explain like, okay, there's people like I think Nietzsche might be one of them. I know he's dead now, but like they talk about his ideas of what it means to be like alive and are we in this kind of reality, what you're basically saying, and other people kind of backing that up or having other theories that are similar to what the Matrix is all about.
Crazy. I would love to hear Neil deGrasse Tyson's view on that. I haven't researched that. I know that he's more into the universe as a whole and physics and things like that, but I would love to hear if he has
I'm sure he does.
theory on that. We should look that up later.
We should.
Yeah.
Or I forgot I had a mission. I was supposed to reach out to him numerous times just to try to get him involved in maybe like a Saturday night sci-fi live tweet. So I have to get back on that. But again, I've sort of been unplugged myself a little bit, and I'm kind of using that both not from the Matrix standpoint, but from just the digital detox to bring that back. And haven't been tweeting as much. I rarely do Facebook until I'm updating people's like, hey, there's a new indoob podcast out, or episode out. But there are times I'm just not around. I'm enjoying life. But you can always schedule tweets to say, hey, Mr. Neil, or Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Doctor. He went to school to get that degree.
He did.
So, yeah, and let him know that you were curious about his thoughts on the Matrix and where he thinks we are in reality, if we're really here, or are we projecting images of ourselves. I'd like to throw in a book recommendation here.
Sure.
Snow Crash, whose author I cannot recall right now. I'm so sorry. Although I do have the audiobook version of it, which I think I might be able to share. But Snow Crash, because it has the same kind of themes and ideas of the Matrix. Not so much as are we in our real reality, but it does go through the whole augmented reality kind of thing. And it is a novel that has been attempted to be adapted into a film and still hasn't quite gotten there yet. But if it does, I would definitely like to see it, because it incorporates kind of the Matrix ideas, but also introduces some kind of ninja samurai stuff. There's some swords going on.
That's always a plus.
You will definitely like that all the characters are pretty multicultural.
Nice.
I think the main character is both Black and Asian. So, and his name is Hiro, which is spelled Hiro. Yes.
Wow.
And he is the hero of that story. It's definitely a good read. Definitely well worth it. And I'm giving another shout out to Melissa Donovan for recommending that to me. And make sure you check her stuff out too over at writingforward.com. It's spelled writingforward.com. Because there's
forward.
Yeah, forward.
Okay. I was like, he misspelled that.
Yeah, that's why I was stumbling, because I know there's 2 ways to spell forward and 2 ways to spell writing. So
that's right.
Actually, 3 ways.
To spell writing?
Writing? Is that,
or is it just right? I don't know if that's a word though.
Okay, maybe it's just right.
Yeah, it may just be right.
Okay,
like
back to
anyway,
yeah. We're word geeks, so deal with it. But yeah, I think that's Snow Crash. Definitely check that out.
All right.
Okay.
Sweet. Right. Will do.
And now we talked about being detoxed from social media. You are on social media. How can we find you, just in case we don't remember from the last time you were here?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is to go to my Twitter, which is Verve HC, so short for Verve House Collective. That's kind of a long title, so I have to shorten it. Okay. So it's Verve, V as in Victor, ERV as in Victor, E, and then HC. And that's the easiest, quickest way to reach out to me, find out what I'm doing. I'm also on Instagram as Verve House Collective, just the whole title. And Facebook is also Verve HC.
I almost felt like some anger, because we just have this thing about Facebook, so...
it has its purpose.
It does, because there are a lot of people that still use it, so...
Yeah. So actually all the people are there.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I have Facebook, but I'm rarely there. But there are some people that don't. But again, you can also, for all those people who are just too lazy, you can also just Google Verve House Collective. It will come up.
It'll come up.
But since I typed it in so many times, vervehousecollective.com comes up first. So.
Aww,
and I'm already following everything that you're doing anyway. So.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's already there.
I need the likes. I appreciate them.
Anytime. I think that's pretty much it. And everyone knows how to follow me. I mean, there's no way that you can get to this podcast without knowing how to spell indoob. But indoob.com is where you find all the other things that I've either written or do whatever. But I think that will wrap up this episode. So we can say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Please, we'll definitely have you back again. I'm definitely have to come back to this lovely town and visit this jewel that has made this town, this city so wonderful. So thank you once again.
You're talking about me or the hotel?
I'm talking about you. No, this hotel is nice too. Shout out to the Legacy Hotel, which has had many guests. I'm maybe one of the lower celebrities, but other celebrities come by. It's like I think. Oh, that's Woody Harrelson. I was going to say Matthew McConaughey was here too, but no. No. I mean, Woody Harrelson, he's all right, but no. But I'm definitely coming back to visit Kortney gem of this city of Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a lovely city too, by the way, so come visit. But yeah, that's about it. So remember, if the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off.
The Indoob podcast was recorded on planet Earth and is an extension of the Indoob blog found at indoob.com. You can subscribe and find more episodes on iTunes and indoob.podbean.com. You can also follow Master Sterling on Twitter at indoob. I am not allowed. This is Bilford signing off, and this has been another 3SFX production.
Use your words, Chief. Good boy.